Are you looking for more out of your life? Do you need ideas on how to start new businesses and how to move forward in your own personal life? Well, guess what? You have come to the right radio show. At You Can Overcome Anything podcast show, you will learn and hear from many people from all walks of life who are sharing their challenges, their stories, the habits, and the mind shifts they had to overcome to become who they are today. On top, you will get a chance to connect and see how you can overcome anything by networking and learning about your next move through this radio show. I present to you our great speakers at You Can Overcome Anything podcast show with your host, CesarRespino. Hello there, and welcome back to another episode of You Can Overcome Anything podcast show. It is your host, Cesar Espino, and today I have a special guest. His name is Jesse Benson. He's the visionary and owner behind Fit Integrated Wellness and the National Personal Training Academy, NPTA. Is renowned as Canada's top fitness trainer of 2024 by Impact Magazine. His multifaceted expertise extends beyond fitness as he holds the title of Hard Endure Champion of 2022. Jesse's holistic approach to wellness combines exercise, science, and nutrition, creating personalized programs that prioritize balance, nutrition, functional movement, and mental resilience. His commitment to community outreach and wellness by donation community classes reflects his dedication to promoting a healthy lifestyle beyond the gym. With infectious enthusiasm, Jesse inspires others to embrace fitness as cornerstone of their journey to vitality and optimal health. Hey, Jesse, how are you today?
Caesar, thank you for having me.
Good, good. Man, definitely, I think that's a really good thing to start talking about, just fitness. But before we dive into that, tell me a bit about your upbringing. Where are you originally from, and how was your
Oh,
upbringing?
yeah, I am born and raised in Timmins, Ontario, Canada. So, I don't know if you know Shania Twain.
I don't.
Okay, so Shania Twain was born there. So, call it Shania Twain Town. It's the city with the heart of gold. It's a small rural community that is based on mining and forestry. So,
Hmm.
that was where I was born. I was born in the sticks. We had every day was an adventure. I'd wake up early in the morning. We'd put our rubber boots on and run outside. The only time we came in was to eat.
Yeah.
So yeah, we had a river in the front, a lake in the back, and
Oh, that's awesome.
yeah, it was a I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world.
Yeah, and just growing up as a kid, I know there's that saying, and not a saying, it's actually reality, is that the things that happen between the ages of 0 to 7, depending on how that was for you, can definitely impact the life that you have,
Mhm.
growing up. Because you're actually intaking that, and unconsciously, as you're growing up, those are some of the things that you might experience. How was that for you overall, like, in terms of just growing up and leading to your teenage years?
Yeah, I do. I can't agree with you more. In fact, I had a younger brother who was just maybe a year younger than I was, and we pushed each other, and it was so much fun just having somebody to play with. We played all kinds of sports. Growing up in nature was a great way for us to develop many skills. We hunt, we trapped even as children. We fished. We built all kinds of things growing up as kids. We built tree houses. We built yeah, I can honestly say that looking back on my childhood, it definitely played a major role in my overall success and development. No question about it.
Yeah, I love that. I'm just curious, and I love what you just mentioned, because I think that the fact that you were able to do that, the way you were growing up, and obviously the era now versus our era is a little bit different, right? What is your
Mhm.
take on? I'm just curious to know, what is your take on the fact that, you know a lot of people, I would say the majority of the people nowadays, to have fun, they have fun in their phone or in the Xbox, or whatever, right? Like, they're not going out into nature or actually doing things outside of that, right? What is your take on that?
I love that you're actually going here. So I again, I couldn't agree more with you. I think we've lost sight of what true fun actually is. And you're right, like life today has become so boring. And I think we've made it that way. I think we're personally responsible for making life boring in that, you're right. People, it's much easier for us to just pick up our phones, get a hit that way, than it is for us to go outside, play, have fun. And it just takes that little bit of effort, right? And it's so important, especially nature in particular, and deep nature is what I would refer to
Mhm.
as nature, meaning, you're at least 10 or 20 miles in there. And if you're doing something exciting, then you get this great cocktail of adrenaline, dopamine, a little bit of risk, adrenaline, all of that is so important. And as human beings, we absolutely need this. So I couldn't agree more with you. We got to make life more fun. We got to get those hits, and we've got to get ourselves back into nature and having real fun, true fun.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think as part of that is, again, as you're growing up and you start taking the idea of, even the idea of just walking in nature or meditating or, silencing yourself, being able to be more in tune with whoever you believe in, whether it's God or the universe, right? Just being more in tune on that. I believe that a lot of that has to do with some of the things that we used to do in the past. And again, now it's like I don't have time. I gotta take this call, or I gotta be on social media, I gotta and we don't make the time to really reflect and be able to look at sign the mind and be able to reflect and say, okay, here's where I want to be, right? And I believe that that's part of that. It could be that in essence.
Absolutely. Anything that's going to help ground us at the end of the day, anything that's going to
Mhm.
help us be more present, absolutely, I think should be practiced as much as possible every day.
Yeah, for sure. So let's talk about growing up, right? And we always have this idea of when I grow up, I want to be this or I want to be that.
Mm.
What was that for you?
Yeah. For me, it was weight training. So at 13, I had a bit of a my parents were arguing, they were fighting, they were essentially separating, and it was quite a difficult time for me and my brother at that time. We were around 12, 13 years old. And what I ended up doing was I dug out some old rusted weights out of my dad's shed and sanded them down, painted them, and set up in the basement where I started weight training. I put on my CD, Big Shiny Tunes 3, and I was weight training. I didn't have an idea what I was doing. I just um, knew that I needed to do this. And I was inspired partly from my dad's feats of strength and a lot of stories of him sharing all this kind of stuff with us as children. And before long, I started to get pretty jacked. I got pretty big, and I'd be at school eating lunch, and my arm would be like two or three times the size of the other kids. And I didn't get a lot of attention from the ladies, but where I did get some attention was from some of the other guys. Initially, people were making fun of me, but it didn't take very long before they wanted to get a bit of guidance and advice in the gym. And that's where we spent a lot of our time in high school. Unfortunately, I didn't do very well academically in school, but looking back on it, the time that I dedicated to my weight training and honing in on that craft is where I probably made the most progress in school. And so by the age of 15, I was in the gym, I was instructing, um, showing other guys what to do in there. I was also volunteering at a neighboring high school, and I was helping out with their weight training program. So by the age of 17, after 4 years, I had started to master some of the principles in terms of discipline, willpower, determination. I was probably bigger than I am today, stronger than I am today at the age of 17. And from there, I knew that my passion absolutely was training and was to one day become a personal trainer. But of course, in my small hometown, becoming a personal trainer was not an opportunity that existed. It was not a reality. And so I was kind of lost, depressed. I started drinking. I started becoming a little bit more depressed and that kind of thing. There wasn't very much hope until I met a guy in a bakery who took one look at me, said, "You're young, you're hardworking. You got to go west. You got to go to Vancouver. That's where the opportunity is." And so he gave me two phone numbers. One was a place for work. The other was a place to stay. And I called those two numbers, and sure enough, they said, "Yeah, get over here. If you're here on Monday, you got a job." And then I started my journey in Vancouver as a laborer, as a construction guy. And I was fortunate enough to meet an owner of a gym there named Mike Castillo, who was from my hometown. He was also a former Mr. Canada. The stars had all aligned, and I had the opportunity to clean his gym. So I started toilets and towels, cleaning his gym on the weekends, and then eventually was able to get my certification. It was a very difficult transition for me. I was commuting about an hour and a half into town, working an 8-hour day construction, going to the gym, doing my hands-on, driving home, studying, packing my lunch, getting 4 hours sleep. And I did that for about 6 months. And I experienced my first burnout at the age of, I believe it was 21. But my dream of becoming a personal trainer at that point became a reality. And I will never forget the day that I walked into the gym with the air conditioning and my brand new running shoes that were not old construct. I was the first male in my family to not put on construction boots to go to work. So it was a very big deal for me when I finally became a personal trainer. And I think that is also what really helps propelled me, right? Is that I don't feel like this is work. Every single day that I get to go to the gym and help people, it fires me up.
Yeah, that's huge. And there's a couple of things you mentioned there, and one of them, I feel like that resilience and the commitment, right? You had this purpose, you had this idea, you knew what you wanted, right? And you kind of went after it regardless of the situation or the circumstances. The second thing you mentioned that I think is huge is when you can get to a place where you're working, right? Except you don't see it as work, you enjoy it and you do it even as if it was just like anything. Like I always tell some of the people that I talk to when I'm coaching them, I said, if you can do anything, whether you got paid for it or not, what would it be? And then once you can identify what that is, then do that, and then let's look at how can we monetize that, right?
Mhm.
Except oftentimes, as you know, many people are going to their 9 to 5, or they're doing things that really they don't enjoy. They're just doing it because they need to get paid, they need to have money, and I get that. Except they're miserable, their health is not in a good place. There's many different elements that by being there, it just doesn't serve them, right? And so we got to be able to identify it and find what can we do that we can enjoy and we don't see it as work. Because when you can find that, you just hit that gold mine in your life, in my opinion.
Absolutely. In terms of passion, you absolutely need to find a passion. Passion, however, even with time, a lot of people will find their passion, and we see it often in personal training where people, will absolutely align with that passion. But I'm under the opinion that unless somebody finds their purpose, that passion will begin to dwindle a little bit, especially after the 5-year mark. And where
Mhm.
purpose really comes in, I think, is where it's bigger than just you. And you find that passion where now other people depend on you. You have a role within your local community. And that's where I think passion can sometimes cross over into purpose. And purpose is what keeps you going over the long haul, especially after 10 or 20 years. Finding that passion, I think, is also equally important
Yeah.
to finding one's passion.
And definitely that's huge. Let me take you back a little bit. So you were talking about because of that same idea of I want this, I enjoy this, I know I want to do weightlifting, or I want to do something within that, right? And recognize and realizing that in your hometown you didn't see the fact that there was going to be a future for you. Walk me a little bit through that, because again, we all go through uh, different things in our lives that can get us down or depressed, whether it's a significant other, the loss of a job, my dreams are coming to an end, kind of thing. Walk me through that in terms of what what was that? I mean, besides the fact that you felt like, what, there's no way that I can do this here, that got you into the drinking, that got you into that depressed mode, that really got you into that. And and you kind of touch a little bit about building the courage to be able to come out of that. I said, walk me through that, because I know that that is a process, right? um Oftentimes we people don't know when they're in a black hole until you're in it. And oftentimes people don't know how to, they feel like it might be easy to kind of get out of it, yet it could be or it cannot be, depends on the person. It's still, there's a process. So walk me through that.
Yeah, there absolutely is a process, and I'm happy to share mine. It was a very dark time, Caesar. It was a very dark time. I was alone. There was no opportunities. I was completely in the dark, it felt like at times. Like I said, I was binge drinking. I was hanging out with some rough guys. I was bringing some of them were HA. Like these were some rough guys. I was in trouble with the law. The law was actually after me, believe it or not, when I was moving out to Vancouver. So when I say it was dark, it was pretty dark, and I could have easily have ended up in a very bad place. And but there was one thing that I had that was absolutely key, and that was my faith in God. And so I turned to Him. You know, all my friends had left. I was effectively alone at that time, again with zero opportunities. So zero doors. And so I turned to Him, and I just got down on my knees every single night, and I prayed the exact same prayer for about 6 months, whether I was drunk or sober. Or I made a point of reading and making sure that I effectively surrendered my life to God. And doing that, it's not just a simple prayer. It's really just, you really gotta be ready and willing to do that. And and He heard me, right? After 6 months, that prayer was answered. And for me, that door was the two phone numbers that I got. And what I failed to mention earlier was that how I ended up in that bakery was I got really drunk and I lost my wallet and had to put that back together. And so I ended up at the bank and having to get a new driver's license. And I just went into that bakery to grab some lunch, right? And it was two pieces of paper. It was just two phone numbers, right? On a ripped up sheet of paper. So I took that as a sign and booked the one-way ticket to Vancouver. And I kept that faith. Most of my bag when I moved here were books, were success books, were religious books. And I did, again, I had no contacts here. I didn't know anyone in Vancouver, but I just trusted that God was going to do something with my life and make it a meaningful one. That was something that I often would ask for. I had the opportunity to do missionary work. I was fully ready to commit my life that way to service, but the door opened for me to come to Vancouver. So that's what I did. And I just said, you know what, use me, make my life, make it a good one.
Yeah. Wow. That's huge. And when we talk about the people that you were hanging around with, and oftentimes we neglect that, right? And it could be people that we know from high school or for many years, and we feel that that's the group we got to stick around. And I do believe that the people you're hanging around with will determine the person you're going to become, right? I think it was Jim Rohn that talked about the idea of you are the average five of the people you hang around with. And so I think that's huge and critical. And sometimes because of the fact and the nature of where we find these people, we don't want to let them go, right? And you literally, not only did you separate yourself from that, you decided to turn to faith. You decided to start reading. You decided to start making changes in your life. And the one thing that I think is very challenging is being able to go to a different place, different city, that one, you don't have any kind of relationships or anybody, and just being able to pick up and do that, the courage and faith to be able to pick up and just start from scratch, is huge. And I think part of the message there is, and this is one of the things that I was talking to a different person recently, is that we can lose our house, we can lose our job, we can lose our family, a wife or husband, and literally be homeless, right? Except if you still have your life, then you still have a whole lot to do, right? The one thing we can lose just about anything. The only one thing that that once you lose it, that's it. It's the end of it, and that's your life, right? And so you have that, you can start from anywhere at any time. So, talking about that, you went through a couple other challenges, and I don't know if it was around the same time. So tell me about those challenges where you lost it all. For it took you 2 years to recover that. You lost your wife, your family. I mean, you lost everything. Your pet. You lost everything, right? Tell me about that.
Okay. Yeah. So I went through basically, I found I once I became a personal trainer, I found success really quickly. I opened a facility and then expanded into another facility. And it wasn't until the pandemic hit where everything started to hit the rocks, so to speak. As soon as those waves started hitting, and the big wave for me was when my younger brother ended up passing. And when he died, that rocked me, and I just couldn't shake it. I couldn't snap out of it. And unfortunately, at that time, I'd also lost my way with God, because why did I need him, right? I was successful. I had $1 million facility. I had property in Vancouver. I kind of went my own way there for a little bit, and found myself in a dead end, right? And when my marriage started to fall apart, because I wasn't myself. I could no longer support myself, let alone the business, let alone the home, let alone, everything that I was supporting at that time. So um, the marriage started to fall apart. The pandemic hit. Our landlord had defaulted on half of his assets. We were forced to move and relocate out of that facility. So I had no gym. I was on the street. And ended up losing the dog in the separation as well. My father was ill at the time. He was slipping away. I was on the phone with him every morning before work. It was a very difficult time, to say the least. And once again, I was brought down to my knees. All right. And I got down on my knees and once again had to do it all over again. I had to surrender my life, right? And relinquish control, because let's be honest, I had none at that time, right? How could you be in control of that situation
Yeah.
when your whole world is coming apart? And once again, he hurt me, and my prayer was threefold. One, I was praying for protection. I prayed protection over the gym every single day. I prayed protection over our trainers every single day and our clients. And I'm proud to say that we didn't have a single COVID trace or case over that 3 years. We were never forced to fully shut down. And so
Mm.
the other thing that I prayed for was was for love. My marriage of 10 years, we were together 10 years, had was coming apart, and I knew that I had to make love my greatest aim. It had to be the thing that, if I wanted to find true love, I had to want it more than anything else. I had to want it more than the properties that I owned. I had to want it more than the business that I had. I had to want love to be the greatest thing that I could achieve. And I really do believe that in order to find true love, you need to make it your number one priority in life, more than things um, or money and that kind of thing. Um, the other thing yeah, so those were the two. Then of course I also surrendered my life. So I surrendered control, and lo and behold, we found a new facility. And that facility, the timing of that could not have been better. We were able to relocate all of our staff, all of our clients. I didn't have to lay anyone off during the pandemic, despite 40% of gyms closing at that time. We won a Resiliency Award, Canada's most resilient gym at that time in 2022, given the entire story and what had taken place and what we had to overcome. And I was able to rekindle with a long, long lost love from almost 20 years ago now. When I was 21 and first moved to Vancouver, I reconnected with my crush girl.
Mm.
And we're now together, and we're like an old married couple. We're engaged. We're happy as can be. We adopted a dog from Mexico, our little Mexicana, and we've got this beautiful life that we're so incredibly grateful for. We give thanks every single day. Um, for every single meal. We have our health, we have success now. We have a second facility that we've opened in Alberta with plans of expanding across Canada. And so I was able to get it all back. In fact, I went from one gym to two gyms with the opportunity now to increase to over five. So I'm incredibly grateful and um and I have to give the praise to God because I can't sit here and pretend like it was all
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. Let me ask you this: when you uh, at that restaurant, you got the two numbers, and when you started your journey, and you were building up and became very successful, was it that you were? Do you believe that part of it that you kind of went through this um, other challenge and were faced with this in your life? Do you think that the first time is because you were chasing that shiny object, or you're just focusing on the profits more so than the purpose?
I was focused on both. I was in my early 20s, a highly motivated, highly uh, successful young trainer. But you're right. I was focused on both, I would say, because when I first started training, I was training people for free. So I can't say that I was money driven per se. I was definitely driven to help people, and the money followed. Once I got a taste of that money, it did motivate me. I'm not going to lie. At that time, the average trainer, going back now over 17 years, was charging around $50 an hour. I
Hmm.
had aspirations of making $100 per hour. And so I sat down with a pen and paper and came up with a 30-minute training model where I asked the question, would people be willing to pay $25 and be paired up with a stranger? And that was the $1 million question at the time.
Hmm.
And it worked. And I was willing to take that leap. I converted my entire business to 30-minute training, and I began making upwards of $100 per hour. And the moment I got a taste of that, I was definitely motivated, and I actually was able to increase the pricing. So I ended up maxing out at around 140 an hour. uh, Outgrew the facility that I was renting space in and opened my first studio. I'd saved up 90,000 and opened up my first studio. And then where I would say that my life changed financially at that time was the day that I made $20,000 net in a month.
Hmm.
I would say that was after taxes. That was after I was paid everything, all the overhead of the business. There was $20,000 net in the bank account each month. And that's where I saw significant change in my not standard of living, because I never lived beyond my means, but I definitely new doors had opened up, new opportunities had opened up that were not there before. And it wasn't something that I had anticipated. I was quite young and naive at the time. I was just kind of excited by all this newfound success that I was having.
Yeah, yeah. One of the reason why I was asking, because I know a lot of times, oftentimes, we tend to chase those profits, right? And I always tell people that if you're working for profits, I think you're doing it wrong. You got to be working for purpose, and the profits will come, right? And you see a lot of people that get into that. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm gonna do this, and they're getting all the success, and then they tend to crash. And part of that is because again, they were not in their authentic self, and they were not focused on the right mission or the right vision for them, right? And so at least that happened to me, right? I know at the beginning that was the case, and I have a couple other friends that kind of venture into being an entrepreneur, and until they actually started looking at it from more of a purpose, what am I here to do, more in terms of not only just giving back to me, giving back to the world, to the people, right? Again, going back to the idea of being of service, right? Then once you're in that, I believe that things just naturally happen, and they come and they keep coming and they keep growing, right?
I completely agree. In fact, if we believe that in the simple fact that if you give, you will receive, right? And if we believe in
Mm.
gravity, then we should also believe that this is also true. And you're right. Like the most successful people that I've met that I know are the biggest givers at the end of the
Mm.
day.
Yeah.
And it really is our capacity to give that will determine what we earn, right? And then how we choose to use that money that we get. Like I know that every single dollar that I get, I'm going to use so that I can help more people,
Yeah.
right? It's really that simple. Um, and there's so many ways that an individual can give. It doesn't have to be monetarily, right? Like you can give somebody a compliment, you can make their day, you can give somebody a hug. Like all those things are free and can go such a long ways. And so I think where a lot of people get stuck is they think that, well, if they can't give monetarily, then they can't become a giver, or they can't, there's nothing that they can offer others, when in fact, there's so many different ways that we can give. Even just giving somebody respect
Yeah.
is a form of giving.
Right.
And you want to be able to give, and it's not a selfless act. I don't think giving or helping people is completely selfless, because what quite often happens, especially as personal trainers, when we give or help our clients, we'll quickly find out that, our problems are not as big as we think they are, right? And other people are going through the same things, if not worse. And so quite oftentimes what will happen by listening and by helping and serving, is it'll bring us a lot of joy and fulfillment, a lot of happiness. And I often say the gold in my profession is in the clients and in the connections and the contacts that we make. And so um, by helping people, you will only help yourself in the process, and also you'll create and opportunities for yourself, right? I mean, if you help somebody, if you go out of your way to help somebody and make a difference or a change in their life, they're going to be compelled to reciprocate and help you in any way that they can. And who knows, maybe they're into property, maybe they can help you find an apartment, maybe they can help you with an investment. Um, there's so much opportunity when you are in service, when you're in a position where you can give and help others.
Yeah, no, that's huge. So let's talk about what you have going on right now, right? So you're obviously are doing what you love, and you take it. You're even doing it more, and you're helping people through many different ways. So tell me about the way you help your clients now.
Yeah, we're in an awesome position. We brought in several different modalities. We brought in RMT, we brought in physio, we brought in chiro. So we're now bringing in other practitioners to help heal our clients. That was one of the things that was placed on my heart when I got the brand new facility. We got a 5,000 square foot facility in Vancouver. We just saw an opportunity to reintroduce things like touch and healing and pain management, all things that post-pandemic people need more than anything, right? People don't need another fitness fad. They really need people who care, who are going to be able to help them. And it's incredible what happens when you bring all these things under one roof. It really truly does work when everyone's communicating and working with their clients. So we've had some amazing healing take place at our facility. We've had some amazing transformations take place at the facility now that we've assembled this really awesome team of health and fitness practitioners, all working in tandem around the client's goals, needs, and wants. So in addition to that, we've had the opportunity to open a new facility in another province, and we're so fortunate to be able to be serving that community and helping that community. In fact, this week we're going to be launching our Buy Donation community class in St. Albert's in partnership with Supplement King and Wiss Bakery. So people are going to get a free coffee after their workout. They're going to get some supplements after their workout, and all money raised will be completely donated to charity. In fact, they'll be donated to some local churches there that we're now supporting as well. And for whatever reason, everyone who's been involved has been of faith. And that was also something that I've prayed for when I got my second chance to rebuild, was I wanted to be surrounded by fellow believers. And it's not like we put that on our application or anything like that,
Hmm.
but it's been so fascinating to see it happening at our facilities, where other people of faith who also want to live a life of share of service, um, who also want to help people, who also have that passion and that drive, are now coming into the organization, into the team, and the alignment has just been awesome, right? Um, we've had a ton of success there, as well as Vancouver, and we're also in the process of expanding our academy. So our academy is where we give trainers who are kind of like myself the opportunity to become a certified trainer. And then in addition to that, we also give them the opportunity to gain hands-on learning, which is quite rare these days, to gain real life experience where we get them what we deem as client ready. And from there, we help them with employment opportunities, or we even give them the opportunity to be hired on under the gym, under our existing team. So this is how we're able to effectively scale the business as well. And the team is through our academy.
Wow, that's huge. If people wanted to connect with you and find out more about the things you have going on, where can they connect with you, or even go to your gym?
Yeah. So our gym is called Fit Integrated Wellness. You can find us at fitintegrated.ca. That's where you're going to find all the gym information. If you wanted to connect with me directly, you can go to my Instagram. It's Jesse Benson .official, and feel free to reach out to me directly there. I'm happy to offer mentorship to both clients and trainers. And lastly, if people wanted to reach out to me, they could also reach me at jesse.fitintegrated. Jesse at fitintegrated.ca.
Awesome, awesome. So we talked a lot about obviously your faith in God, and that helped you a lot and has been helping you a lot. Are there any other things that you do on a day-to-day basis besides working out for sure to kind of help you with this positive state of mind?
Like you said earlier, Caesar, like definitely the people that I surround myself with is absolutely huge. I'm also a very strong believer in that, and the people that we surround ourselves with. And I've made a conscious effort of doing that within my inner circles, just making sure that I'm also hanging out with people who have also fully committed their lives to fitness, to wellness, to health, and that kind of thing. I've got a ton of mentors that I absolutely value and cherish and respect, and also spend a lot of time with. So, like later today, I'm going to be having lunch with my mentor of 15 years. Even one of the guys that I work out with is a mentor of mine. So I surround myself with a lot of mentors. I've got a coach also. I receive coaching every week. So all of that support, it's really, it takes a village, right? We can't do all this
Mhm.
stuff on our own. We need that support, and who we surround ourselves with is absolutely key. In addition to that, I would just say that, I haven't owned cable TV in my entire life, and I don't really get caught up too much on that kind of stuff. And so a lot of my time is spent either doing the things that I love, like hitting up the seawall, staying active, being in nature, going dirt biking. Those activities I think are much more healthy for my state of mind and my body and stuff. So I tend not to I don't play video games or
Yeah.
any of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. The last question I have for you is for the people that are listening to us or are watching us, if they're going through any challenges,
Yeah.
whatever challenge that might be, what is one thing that they can start doing to start overcoming that challenge?
One thing, one thing that they could start doing to start overcoming that challenge. Can I ask what you do, Caesar?
Yeah, for sure. So I do a couple of different things. I'm a real estate investor. I am also a business and life coach, and then I am a book author.
Cool, cool. Well, the one thing I would say, and it's multifaceted, unfortunately, but it would just be getting back to basics.
Mm,
So, as complicated as life can get, sometimes, or as complicated as health and fitness and mental health is, sometimes it can be as simple as just getting back to the basics.
yeah,
So, what are the basics? Well, the basics are activity, which are really the foundation. It's just getting in, even if it's walking at the end of the day, and just that little bit of movement is going to help you with every other facet. So by becoming a little bit more active, we're going to drink a little bit more water, we're going to have a little less stress, we're going to sleep better, our body's going to begin craving nutrients. So suddenly things like vegetables are going to be a little bit more appealing and that kind of thing. And so I would say, as complicated as all this stuff is, get back to basics
yeah.
and maybe start with just a bit of activity.
I love that. I love that. Well, definitely, Jesse, I had a great conversation with you and really enjoyed this episode with you. Anything else you want to say before I let you go?
I just want to thank you for the opportunity of getting on here, and I really do appreciate it. And I love that you get back to the roots, so to speak. And we touched on childhood and the importance of that, and how we grow up. And it seems like you've got a passion for youth, and I couldn't agree more. I think that parenting and upbringing of our youth is probably the most important thing that we that is going on right now, especially for our future. So I just want to thank you for the work that you're doing, Caesar.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Jesse. And for the rest of you guys, do me a favor. Please make sure that you share this podcast because definitely somebody needs to hear this message. And I'll see you guys at the next episode of You Can Overcome Anything podcast show. Thank you.
Hi, I'm CesarRespino, real estate investor, business coach, and consultant, and author of the book, You Can Overcome Anything, Even When the World Says No. My number is 424-501-6046. In my book, I talk about making the necessary changes to shift your mind for prosperity and certainty. Pick up your copy at Amazon. I also love helping families with their real estate and can purchase your house fast and all cash. Follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. My number is 424-501-6046.
Thank you for having me today. I am so glad you've tuned into this podcast. You can find me at your favorite podcast platform where you can like, subscribe, comment, and share. And to learn more about myself, my services, you can find me at www.CesarRespino.com, or you can also find me at your social media. Thanks for joining me, and I am looking forward to having you at the next episode. And know you truly can overcome anything.